Is the EU corruption scandal just the tip of the iceberg? As we delve deeper into the allegations of corruption and misconduct within the European Union, one can't help but wonder if this is just the surface level of a much larger issue. With high-ranking officials being implicated in these scandals, it raises the question: how deep does the corruption go? Is it just limited to a few individuals, or is it a systemic issue within the EU? It's a question that demands to be answered, and it's one that we'll be exploring in this video. So stay tuned as we investigate the EU corruption scandal and try to get to the bottom of just how widespread the issue really is. The scandal that has rocked the European Union involves allegations of corruption, money laundering, and the creation of a criminal organization. High-ranking officials and powerful business figures have been implicated in these crimes, leading to widespread outrage and calls for accountability. As the investigation continues, more and more shocking details are coming to light. It's been revealed that millions of euros have been funneled through shell companies and offshore accounts, all in an effort to line the pockets of those involved. The creation of a criminal organization is particularly disturbing, as it suggests a coordinated effort to undermine the rule of law and evade justice. It's a betrayal of the trust placed in these individuals by the European public, and it's a betrayal of the values that the EU stands for. The question now is, how will the EU respond to this crisis? Will those responsible be held accountable, or will this scandal be swept under the rug? Only time will tell, but one thing is clear: the EU must take decisive action to root out corruption and restore trust in its institutions. In a bombshell development, Francesco Giorgi, the partner of Greek MEP Ivakhali, has confessed to his involvement in the Bribery network at the heart of the EU corruption scandal. In a statement to authorities, Giorgi admitted to accepting millions of euros in bribes from various sources, including Qatari officials. According to Giorgi's confession, he was acting as a conduit for Qatar's government, funneling money to influential figures within the EU in exchange for favorable treatment. This revelation has sent shockwaves through the EU, as it suggests that the corruption may be even more widespread than previously thought. In light of these admissions, both Giorgi and Kili have been arrested and are facing charges of bribery, money laundering, and the creation of a criminal organization. It remains to be seen how this will impact the ongoing investigation, but it's clear that this scandal is far from over. In addition to her legal troubles, Kili has also been stripped of her role as the Vice President of the European Parliament. The swift action taken against Kili and Giorgi is a clear sign that the EU is taking this corruption scandal seriously and is determined to hold those responsible accountable. However, many are questioning whether this is enough and are calling for a wider investigation into the extent of the corruption within the EU. As the investigation continues, it's likely that more individuals will be implicated in the bribery network. It's a complex web of corruption that will take time to untangle, but it's a necessary step if the EU is to restore trust in its institutions and demonstrate that it is committed to upholding the rule of law. The EU corruption scandal continues to unfold, and new details are emerging about the role that Qatar may have played in attempting to influence the EU through gifts and large sums of money given to MEPs. According to the allegations, Qatari officials were using these bribes to secure favorable treatment and access to EU decision-making processes. The revelation that a foreign government may have been involved in this corruption scheme is particularly troubling, as it suggests that the EU's integrity and independence may have been compromised. It's a serious breach of trust, and it's one that the EU must address if it wants to restore confidence in its institutions. As the investigation continues, it's important that the EU conducts a thorough and transparent inquiry into all aspects of this scandal. Only by fully exposing the extent of the corruption can the EU hope to take the necessary steps to prevent it from happening again in the future. The EU corruption scandal has taken a dramatic turn, as secret services have been deployed to investigate the allegations of a cash-for-favors scheme within the EU. The scale of the corruption is becoming increasingly clear, with millions of euros being funneled through shell companies and offshore accounts in an effort to buy influence and access. The involvement of secret services highlights the gravity of the situation, and it's a clear sign that the EU is taking these allegations seriously. However, it's also raising concerns about the extent of the corruption and the potential impact it may have had on EU decision-making processes. As the investigation continues, it's crucial that the EU follows all leads and leaves no stone unturned in its quest to root out corruption. The integrity and credibility of the EU is at stake, and it's up to the EU to demonstrate that it is committed to upholding the rule of law and holding those responsible accountable. The EU corruption scandal has raised serious questions about the transparency and effectiveness of anti-corruption measures within the EU. How is it possible for such a widespread scheme to go undetected for so long? And why are the red flags not picked up by the EU's internal controls? These are just a few of the questions that are being asked in the wake of this scandal, and it's clear that there are serious deficiencies in the EU's ability to prevent and detect corruption. This is a major concern, as it undermines the trust of the European public in their institutions and calls into question the EU's commitment to upholding the rule of law. It's imperative that the EU takes swift and decisive action to address these weaknesses and to put measures in place to prevent corruption from happening again in the future. This will require a comprehensive review of current anti-corruption measures, as well as the implementation of new measures to ensure the transparency and integrity of EU decision-making processes. Only by taking these steps can the EU hope to restore trust in its institutions and demonstrate its commitment to upholding the highest ethical standards. The eyes of the world are on the EU, and it's up to the EU to demonstrate that it is committed to upholding the highest ethical standards. Thanks for watching another episode of Europe Disaster. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth coverage of the latest European news and events. We'll see you in the next one.